As a real estate broker, the number one question I get asked on the regular is, Anthony, how is the market? Well, my friend, there are so many thoughts that go through my brain when you ask that. And you might be nodding along saying, yeah, I've asked multiple realtors that question. How's the market? Well, let me answer that for you, giving you facts, statistics, a deeper dive understanding as to our market here in Northwest Arkansas, specifically Benton County. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that the information I'm going to provide to you is very nerdy. It's very detail-oriented. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to break down Benton County house sales. This is not condos. This is not townhomes. This is Benton County. We can get into the weeds about Washington and Madison County. Just understand that Benton County is more expensive than Washington County. Benton County typically has more new construction than Washington County. Madison County is below both of them. Not that it's lesser than, it's just there's not as much going on over there as there is here in Benton or Washington County. So Benton County data, how's the market? Well, let's dig in to see what that actually looks like. I'm a true believer that the numbers don't lie unless you lie about the numbers. And when you do present numbers like this, you have to be extremely factual and give people who's consuming this information an understanding of where you're coming from. And then also, as a professional in this field, helping you understand what that might mean to you. So I'll give you a little hint on the front. If you're a buyer looking to move to Benton County, now is a phenomenal time to buy. And you might be saying, well, Anthony, of course, the best time to plant a tree is today and 50 years ago. Yes, true. However, the numbers are going to show that if you're looking to buy in Northwest Arkansas, or specifically Benton County, now is a phenomenal time to buy. Now, if you're a seller watching this video, don't think that just because maybe you just listed your home or what have you, that the market is tanking. That is not the case, my friend, but it is starting to favor more so the buyer in today's market. One more disclaimer is I always need to help you understand, if you don't know about our market, there is so much new construction that drives our home sales, that drives our price per square foot, that drives our market, that I need to break out new homes versus existing homes. So I'll definitely make sure that I make that distinction when I'm giving you statistical information. Usually in my quarterly market updates, I go back 5 to 10 years and show you data so you can see how are we trending, which brings me to my first point. When you're looking at data, there are 2 points on a line that will create a trend line. Now, if you are an analyst, if you're a market watcher, if you're a market predictor, you're looking at least 3 points of data to be able to determine, is that going up? Is it going down? Is there volatility in that trend, if you will? So one bone I have to pick, and I'm going to call them out, is the Skyline Report. They're considered the gold standard in our marketplace for real estate data. They look at residential, multifamily, they look at commercial data, they look at new construction starts, they look at absorption rates, they look across the board as a gold standard for our market. However, they only give us 2 points of data each year. The first half of 2025, the second half of 2025. I personally believe we need more data points than that to be able to really truly determine what's the market doing? How is it happening? Because you're sitting there right now going, well, I need to make a decision now. I can't base my decision based off of what happened the first half of the year. We've had 3 months pass by since then. What's been going on now to make my decision now? Well, my friend, we're going to dig into that. And again, no disrespect to the folks at Arbest with their Skyline Report. I just want to give you richer data. I want to give you richer information so you can make the best informed decision that you can with accurate, statistically reported information. Because Q3 is over, I have all this data at my fingertips now, finally, to be able to convey it to you. Let's go ahead and pop up what the first 9 months of the year has looked like in regards to average sale price. Yes, I know it's average, not median. Average sale price since the beginning of the year. As you can see here, by the first part of the year, if you just looked at the first half, you could see that home sales went all the way up to $503,000 in June. But look, since June, July, August, September, every month since then has continued to trickle down. Why is that? What's going on? Needless to say, there's volatility in the market when it comes to multiple different factors such as tariffs and interest rates. What's the Fed going to do with interest rates? We're going to get into that on this video, so buckle up. It's always a longer video. My normal videos are 10 to 14 minutes long. This one tends to be quite a bit longer than that, but I only do it once a quarter, so thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Earlier I had mentioned I'm also tracking new construction to understand how much of our market is affected by new construction. Let's go ahead and pop up a chart. You can see here from the beginning of the year, Q1, Q2, Q3, every quarter has gone down about 4%. 38.98, 34.38, then here in Q3, only 32.12% of our marketplace was new construction as far as what's sold in Q3. Depending on where you're coming from in the country, that could still be a significant amount, but for us, that's actually fairly low. Many of you are interested in price per square foot. Let's look at the price per square foot since the beginning of the year. So let's go ahead and pop up a chart showing what price per square foot has been. Again, this is all sales. This is not new and existing broken out. This is all sales average price per square foot. You can see since the beginning of the year, we kind of peaked in June. And then since June, much like our new construction, since June, the average price per square foot in Benton County has trickled down since it peaked in June of this year. You may be interested to know that for about the last 12 years, yes, I track back that far, that the average price per square foot typically goes up 1 or 2 months the latter part of the year. But what we've seen, again, since June is we're trickling back down. And I would anticipate we're going to continue to trickle down maybe to what we were at the beginning of the year, closer to $214 to $215 a square foot. But that's speculation, my friend, which we'll get into another number that helps support that information towards the end, and that's the list to sale ratio. Just those 3 metrics right there, we can see that our market is softening. I told you in Q2 that I don't think we're going to see a bubble pop. We're not going to see a burst here in Northwest Arkansas. We will start to see a little of a correction at the end of Q2 last year. That was right when our market usually peaks, and we always soften right before school, just like I almost predicted, as if I knew what was going to happen. Had a little peak, and then here we are starting to go down towards the latter part of the year, mainly with lower sale numbers. Looking at this next chart, you could see I went all the way back to 2014. But Q3 of 2025, we saw 1,678 total sales. That's very similar to 2018, 2017, and 2016. However, one piece that I'm tracking with that is the new construction percentage that we saw this quarter, 32.12%. Back in 2016, 17, and 18, it wasn't nowhere near that high. Only around 16% of the total sales were new construction. So we've seen a lot of new construction growth in our market. If you're looking at this data, said another way, 8 out of the last 11 years, Q3 has been the hottest quarter of the year. Well, that's not the case here in 2025. I think based off of the video so far, you can understand what we're seeing is we're seeing a trend line down since mid-year, making reference back to the Skyline Report. Again, they're putting out great data. However, they're only putting it out at the beginning of the year and mid-year. And if you go online right now and you type in Arvest Skyline Report 2025, you'll see that there are multiple other real estate agents that are using this to help extrapolate this data, help give you an understanding of what our market's doing. That's what it did at the beginning of the year. What has happened since that is different. I also went a bit deeper. I was looking at the Skyline Report. Yes, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I was looking at Benton County sales again, because this is where most of my business all happens, is mainly in Benton County, Arkansas. Not to get too far into the weeds, I did look at their last 5 years of data reporting. Now, I can only assume they have the same access to the information that I do. I don't believe that the powers that be over there are tracking every single house sale. I do believe that they're using MLS data, just like I'm providing to you. So I'm questioning a couple things. I went back and looked specifically to do some fact checking on their numbers. And of course, I wanted to know, are they looking like I do? Are they looking at all sales in Benton County? Or are they just looking at house sales in Benton County? Hear me loud and clear, my friends. It's not that I want to shoot holes in their data. I do want to fact check it. I do want to understand, is this a resource that I can use to help convey information to you in the future? What I found based off of today and yesterday's research is, I don't think so. I like to be a bit more accurate than what they're providing to you. Again, and I also like to provide more data points along the way as you're trying to help make decisions in real time. According to their reports, they'd used Benton, Washington, and Madison County house data to come up with their numbers. So that's how I do it as well. And I'm again specifically just looking at Benton County. According to the Skyline Report, there were 5,049 total homes that sold. And I was able to verify in the MLS there were 5,043. So I was within 5. Maybe something got moved over. It's possible real estate agents marked the wrong date. It's possible that something wasn't recorded when it needed to be recorded. Sometimes things can change, but we're talking about a small variance of 5 total. So in my opinion, we're about 0.1% off from one another, but that's a slight variance. It's not like we're a 0.5 point or 2 or 3% difference from one another in regards to total home sales. That being said, let's go over to their Benton County chart, which you can see here. There's a trend line that they're showing on each city: Rogers, Centerton, Bentonville, Siloam Springs, and Bella Vista. Of course, that being my market, I wanted to fact check their information. I found it interesting, and this is why I won't use the Skyline Report convey information to you unless I give you maybe some caveats to it, unless I give you some further understanding to the PDF that you can go out there and find right now if you want to. Real quick, if you are watching and you help put together the Skyline Report, it would be my pleasure to help work through this with you together. That way our information is the most accurate that it can possibly be. Happy to do so as a real estate broker here in Benton County. According to their charts, you can see they have markers every 100,000 in price range. Now, if you cut those price ranges in half, you can basically see that that would be halfway between this line and halfway between this line. If you cut that in fourths, you could see that here's where the quarter marks might be. So as a general consumer looking at these charts, I believe that there's misinformation that's being provided to you. Now, you might say, Anthony, you're getting a little bit into the weeds here. Yeah, I am getting into the weeds, but I believe it's my responsibility as a real estate broker, as a professional in this industry, to give you the most detailed and analytic information you can possibly have to make the best decision for you and your family. This may help you understand a bit more about your buddy Anthony. I pulled about 65 reports to verify this information. Now, I will say, before we get into this, based on what I could verify, Siloam Springs is the most accurate. Now, again, I looked at all home sales, and I looked at just house sales, each city, average price points, looked at it all. As you can see on the chart, they have the ability to place those markers anywhere they want on that line. Looking at Rogers, it appears as though the average home sale price was $560,000 for the first half of 2025 and $550,000 for the second half of 2024. Actual sales prices for the first half of 2025 in Rogers was $542,000. According to this chart, they're off by about 18 grand. Actual sale prices of the second half of 2024 in Rogers was $535,594, about $14,000 lower than what they're showing on the chart. Why are they making it appear as though Rogers prices are higher than they actually are? Now, looking at Centerton at their last two data points, it appears as though the average sale price in Centerton as of the first half of 2025 was $475,000. Would you agree that it looks like it's right on this quarter line here on their chart? Well, actual average sale prices of just houses in Centerton for the first half of the year was closer to $499,000. Why is it showing $25,000 lower than what the actual sale prices were? The second half of 2024, their chart shows that it appears it's halfway between $400,000 and $500,000. That would be $450,000. Well, the actual average of the second half of 2024 home sale prices were $472,800. Again, nearly $22,000, $23,000 off. They might be watching this going, you know, Anthony, these are kind of getting us close. This is not accurate, but they do claim to be the gold standard of real estate information in Northwest Arkansas. Well, what's higher than gold right now? Palladium. This may be the palladium standard that you're getting from your buddy Anthony right now. I've heard it numerous times that people said, Anthony, I can get your information from the Skyline Report that is put out every half of the year. And I say, well, that's cool, but I'm going to trust but verify. I'm going to fact check their data based off of the information that's public on the MLS. Now you might be saying, well, that's just MLS data. What about off-market sales? Well, off-market sales, there might be a small amount, maybe a quarter to a half a point that might change some of the total amount of sales. But when you're going accurate and when you're wanting to be specific, you need to be specific with the number. It's no different in Bentonville. They say that the average sale price in the first half of 2025 in Bentonville, it shows on this chart, right about $660,000. Actual first half sales of 2025 homes averaged $638,093. Why are they showing that the number is higher than they actually are? Rogers was higher than actual. Centerton was lower than actual. Bentonville's higher than actual. One thing we should point out, my friends, someone commented on my channel a while back about using median prices versus average. Well, I've been tracking with average for the longest time, for the last 10 to 15 years doing this business. So that's the vernacular that I use is average. Let's do this. A general rule of thumb is median home sale prices compared to average home sale prices is going to tend to be lower. Sometimes it's 50 grand, sometimes it's $125,000 lower. Median prices tend to take out the skewed data of the $8 million house versus the $30,000 house down the street. the median house price tends to give a bit more of a realistic number. So please understand that the average house in Bentonville first half of the year sold $638,000, but the median sale price for the first half of the year in Bentonville was closer to $489,000. Maybe that can help you breathe a little bit better. I'm not going to belabor the point, but there's 2 times on their charts that should show pictorially either the number going up or the number being below a certain line. For instance, in Bentonville, in the first half of 2023, their chart shows that the average sale price of a home in Bentonville was $505,000 to maybe $510,000, when the actual average sale price of a home in Bentonville in that same time frame, according to MLS, was $490,598. So why does their chart show that it's more expensive than it actually was? I've got some theories, I've got some conspiracies, but I'm not going to get into that on this video. For good measure, of course, I looked at Bella Vista. Again, some of the same discrepancies. One discrepancy that I pointed out on this one here is that in the second half of 2023, their chart shows that the average sale price has gone down from the previous point, which actual sale prices had gone up since the previous point. They're showing $375 down to $365. The MLS is showing $371,219 up to $373. So theirs is showing it's going down 10 grand. The actual information is showing that it went up about $3,000. Hear me loud and clear, my friends. They're putting out information. I'm putting out information. Has there ever been a time where I've probably said something that wasn't 100% accurate? Yes, but please call me out on it. Please let me know, and I will make apology. The fact of the matter is there is a ton of data that's out there and accessible. Sometimes you can accidentally click the wrong button, and it might average active homes in with sold homes or pending homes with sold homes, and that can skew the data also. So you have to be very accurate with your reporting. It's not like you guys are trying to make a decision on a $5 item at a garage sale. This is a $500,000, $2 million, $5 million purchase or sale. Better to have accurate information. Circling back around, the real story here, my friend, is if you look at our market's history for the last 10 to 15 years, every quarter has continuously gone up, except what we've experienced this quarter, except what we've experienced in new construction, except what we've experienced in price per square foot. We're starting to see things correct a little bit, as mentioned in the Q2 report that I did a few months ago. But one thing that's not going down is the amount of homes over $1 million. That is something that I told you I'd be tracking going forward because we're seeing a lot more of them. Going back since 2020, there were 19. 21, there was 36. And 22, there was 56. Let's just pop up the rest of the chart. 42, 81, and then here so far in 2025, there's been 105 homes sell in Benton County over $1 million. In fact, there's been quite a few between the 3 million and the 8 million range. In 5 years, that's 4 times as many $1 million homes that sell, and we're not even through all of 2025 yet. Earlier, we had looked at quarter by quarter. Let's look at month by month. You can see here by popping up this chart, since the beginning of the year, month by month sales for Benton County, September was the 3rd lowest month for the year. Now, typically January and February are our coldest, not only by temperature, but also coldest and lowest sales numbers. 502 total sales was the 3rd lowest for the year so far. I do believe that probably December's might be even lower than where we're at right now, just because it's in that Christmas time. There's holidays that are going on. People aren't looking to buy or sell as much as they are in the spring and summer months. And for good measure, you should know that September was the 2nd lowest month for new construction sales, just beating out February at 144. September new construction sales was 152. Now that we've had a chance to go over historical data, let's go talk about what's currently happening in our market. Again, we've drawn that trend line down. We're able to see that things are softening. They're not crashing. Things are softening. Let's now look at pending properties. Currently, there's 926 total properties pending in Benton County. 509 of those are new construction. Total amount between Q2 and Q3, we're down about 110 total pending properties than we were in Q2 using the same data. However, percentage-wise, new construction in Q2 and new construction pending in Q3, both at 55%. As a reminder, new construction is going to have a higher pending number because builders put the home on the market, people buy the house, and those homes won't close for a few months because the builder's finishing the house, as opposed to an existing home, goes on the market, goes under contract, sells 30 to 45 days later. The average pending property in Benton County right now is $519,750 with an average of $228 a square foot. I know you guys love to see that number. Earlier, we had talked about price per square foot trickling down. Another metric that we're going to talk about in a second will let me know that $228 a square foot, I believe it's going to be down closer to $226 or $224 because of the list to sale ratio that we're seeing also. But before we get into list to sale ratio, let's look at the active properties that are on the market in Benton County. There are currently 1,952 total properties for sale in Benton County. 683 of those, or 35%, are new construction. My friend, when we did this report in Q2, there were 1,606 homes for sale in Q3. There's over 345 more at this juncture here at end of Q3. We're seeing more homes sitting on the market. We're seeing more homes come to market, which tells us what? We're going to have more months of supply. Back in Q2, I told you there was right around 3 months of supply, very close to 3 months of supply in Benton County. And again, realtors watching, yes, you loop in Benton, Washington, Madison, and the rest of the MLS. We were closer to 3.27 months of supply. Benton, Washington, and Madison counties all looped in together. With those 1,953 homes available on the market, and then based off of our last 6 months of sales data, we have in Benton County 3.37 months of supply. That's up over 11 days of what it was reporting on the same factor last quarter. Now again, months of supply, we stopped listing houses today. It would take us about 3.37 months in order to buy up all that inventory. Now let's go ahead and bring up list to sale ratio. Pop up the chart. As you can see, since June at 98.9%, we have trickled down every month since in September, ending at 98.4% list to sale ratio. So again, our pending properties are pending at $228 a square foot. But I believe because of that 98.4% list to sale ratio, that's kind of a leading indicator, letting us know where the pendings might end up, is that I believe they're going to be closer to that 223, 225 a square, probably somewhere in there. Someone recently also said, hey, Anthony, a leading indicator is REO properties. This is foreclosed, bank foreclosures. Well, let's go ahead and bring that up just for you, my friend. This number, my friend, is all properties in Benton County. I didn't parse out just houses. This is all REO, bank-owned properties that went through foreclosure process that listed and sold on the MLS. 2020, there were 36. In 2021, we had 7. 2022, 4. 2023, we doubled to 9 in 2023. In 2024, there were 10. And so far in 2025, there were 8. REO foreclosure sold homes in Benton County. So not a whole lot of that being a change, which tells me that people have a bunch of equity in their home. They're not having to foreclose when they sell their home. They're not having to give the property back to the bank because they don't have money to bring to the table at closing. There's equity in that property. Again, dispelling multiple times in the past, a recession, a correction in the market does not mean housing crisis. You may be asking yourself, Anthony, what does all of this mean to me as a seller? Well, my friend, if you're a seller, please understand that when you're partnering with a real estate broker to price that property accordingly. There's two things that sell anything: price and exposure. You have it at the wrong price and you expose it out to everybody, somebody's not going to buy it. If you have it at a really good price and expose it out to everyone, it could go in multiple offers. It's possible. Now, you might be listening to this whole entire video. Thank you for sticking around. As a buyer, and you might be saying, Anthony, what does this information to me as a buyer? At the beginning of the video, I'd said, if you're a buyer and you're looking to move to Benton County, if you're looking to move to Northwest Arkansas, now is a phenomenal time to buy because we have more inventory. We're seeing sellers give concessions. We're seeing homes. I just put one under contract that had a contingent offer of a home selling in a completely different state. So is that possible? Yes. Is it possible in the spring and summer months? Yes, but not as much. You may be also a buyer saying, well, I'm kind of on the fence waiting to see what happens with interest rates. And almost like predicting the future, I told you that mortgage rates are anticipatory to what the Fed will do with the federal interest rate. James, let's go ahead and pop up one more chart for them. As you can see right here, when the Fed lowered the interest rate back in September, here's what happened with mortgage interest rates. They went up. Because looking before the date, there were so many leading indicators that had said that the Fed's going to lower interest rates. So mortgage rates started trickling down ahead of time. Many people believe that when the Fed lowers the interest rate, that mortgage interest rates will go down. Can it? Yes, it can. But historically, what we saw, and it saw last year in 2024 as well, And then we saw a peak of interest rates, not a lender. We saw a peak of the 30-year fixed mortgage interest rate around that January, February timeframe. And then it kind of trickled down since. But interest rates are the lowest they've been in a year, my friend. So I have to ask, why are you waiting? Now is the time to buy a house in Northwest Arkansas. If I can help with that, I would greatly appreciate the opportunity. My friend, it's always a pleasure to put this information together for you. And now you know a little bit more, maybe a lot more, about what life is like in and around Bentonville. Thanks for watching.